Good afternoon. My name is Amy Pedigo. This is a demonstration of Jupyter.io. Jupyter.io is an all-in-one cloud-based product that has Jupyter Grades, our online gradebook, as well as Jupyter SIS, our SIS component, Juno LMS, which is our learning management system and assessment builder, as well as test analytics. Today I'm going to be giving a demonstration of all of those items, including the parent-student portal that is included with Jupyter. We're going to start with the teacher view of Jupyter. Jupyter can be viewed by parents, teachers, and administrators. I should say parents, students, teachers, and administrators. I have this demonstration school set up like a high school, and I have myself set up as both a teacher and an administrator. We'll also look at the administrative side after we view the teacher side. Parents and students will view virtually the same thing on the parent-student portal. We'll receive alerts sent by the school, set up by the administrators, as far as alerts regarding homework assignments, alerts regarding attendance, alerts regarding discipline issues, etc. Here we are starting out with the teacher side of Jupyter. I'm looking at this like a history teacher. I have 2 sections of world history and 2 sections of U.S. history. Notice that when I'm looking at this overview of my class, I see all of my students and their current grades. I can look at the last 10 assignments, or I can look at many assignments, all of their assignments if I want to, or I can view the assignments by category. When I'm looking at the assignments, I can also click directly into an assignment, or I can click directly into a student. I can also view my class by sort of a traditional gradebook view, looking at the rows and columns of those grades. I can click on the assignment tab to create an assignment, or I can click a new assignment from any page. Let's go back to the class. I'm going to click on a specific student. We're going to look at Scott Addison. Notice that if I want to look at Scott's grades in comparison to everyone else, I can do that. I'm viewing Scott Addison's grades, but I see how the other students are doing as well. Notice there's a graphic here that shows the trajectory of their grade in the past 4 weeks. It's a red bar if they're on a downward trajectory, and a green bar if they're on an upward trajectory. But maybe I want to have Scott and his parents come up to my desk so we can discuss his grade. I'm going to go ahead then and hide the other students' grades so that their information remains private. When I'm looking at Scott's grades, I can talk about his grades with him and give him specific examples of things that are going on. One of the things you'll notice is that I, as a teacher, can leave a comment for Scott about any of his assignments. These assignment comments are meant to be about a line long, maybe 1 sentence, reminding the student to retake a test, or reminding them that they maybe haven't turned in an assignment or they need to redo it. Down lower on the page, you'll see comments for students and parents. This is a longer comment that teachers can leave for the parents and students to view on the progress reports and report cards. And notice that I can type directly into the box, or I can click on a specific item, and that will just bring up that customized comment. I, as a teacher, can go in and add however many comments I want to use as far as frequent comments that I may use. But the school can also go in and create a set of comments that they want teachers to use. You'll notice that I can also view Scott's category grades. If I have chosen to use categories, I don't have to, but as a teacher, I can choose to use categories. One of the things I can do from this page is show Scott what would happen if perhaps he had done better on a test. So here's the test, chapter 12, that I asked him to take again, and he hasn't done it yet. So I can sit down with Scott and say, you got a 60 on that test. What would have happened if you had gotten perhaps an 85? If you could retake the test and get 25 points more, let's see what would happen. I can click the what if button in the upper right-hand corner, and that shows me that Scott's grade would have been brought up from a D+ up to a C-, which may make the difference for him to be able to participate in sports, or depending on how the school rules are going. All I have to do is go ahead and click revert, and then that takes this grade back to whatever it was before. Notice there's also a backups button so that the teacher, if for some reason some grades get erased, you can just go to the backups and see any grades that you have put in for this assignment in the past. Notice there's a new assignment button on every page in the gradebook so that anytime I need to go ahead and create a new assignment, I can do that. But before we do that, let's view one of these other assignments like the World War I and II comparative essay. When you're looking at an assignment like this, I want to point out that Jupyter has standards-based grading. When you're using standards-based grading, the way that it works is administrators set up standards that are attached to a course. In this case, it's 10th grade world history. So 10th grade world history has a set of standards. And every time a section of 10th grade world history is being taught, these standards will appear for the teacher. When the teacher is creating assignments, he or she can attach standards to that assignment. You can then score those standards separately or collectively. So notice here that because this is a World War I and II assignment, I've clicked on World War I and II, and I'm going to give the students a separate grade for World War I and World War II. But I don't have to do that. I can choose to score them together so that, you know, if this is an essay and it's just about both of those items and I want to go ahead and score them together, I can go ahead and do that. Or I can choose to score them separately. Maybe there's 3 or 4 objectives that are being used from this assignment. I can score all of them separately if I choose to, or I can score them together. A couple other items I want to point out about standards-based grading is that at the school level, the administrators would be attaching the standards to courses. Jupyter does have common core standards that are ready to go in our system for you to use, or you can upload your own standards in the form of a text file or .csv, or you can cut and paste from an Excel spreadsheet. So let's look at creating an assignment. Any page that you go to has a new assignment button. So here we are. We can go ahead and look at an assignment. I can go ahead and put in chapter 21 quiz. I decide when the assignment is due. All I have to do is go ahead and click on it. I can decide how I want to put that in, points, percents, grades, etc. I can also decide if it's associated with a category. We'll go ahead and put this in tests and quizzes. I decide how many points it's worth out of how many points possible. Then I can decide if it is being attached to a specific objective in my set of standards. Maybe it's more than one, maybe it's not. A couple other items you can see here that are useful. We notice math teachers using quick scores quite a bit. This is where you can start out the student with a default grade. So if I choose to use a 1 and a 0 scale, it gives everyone a 1 to start with. For instance, the way math teachers do homework checks, everybody has to bring their homework every day, and if they do, they automatically get a point. If they don't, they get a point take. So in this case, I can just give everyone a default score of 0, excuse me, a default score of 1, and then if someone did not bring their homework for the day, I can go ahead and tap on that, click on their cell, and it will go ahead and give them a 0, or perhaps they did bring it and then they'll get a 1. But I don't have to type in all of the ones. I don't have to type in any numbers at all. All I have to do is click one time, and that changes their grade. I can also choose to, fill in their default score with whatever I choose. A couple other items here. Notice that I can hide the score for this assignment, or I can hide this assignment from the homework and them being able to view that information. I can also put it on the homework calendar. If this is a pop quiz, I certainly don't want the students to see it on the homework calendar, so I won't be doing that. But if I do want the students to see on the homework calendar, I can choose to show it for however many days I want before it's due. Notice that I can also create a description of this assignment. I can grab a file from my computer. I can paste a link into this box. I can write out a description and talk about exactly what the student needs to do. The parents and students will both see this on the parent-student portal. They'll see both a homework calendar as well as a description of the homework. I'm going to revert back. So here we are again looking at Scott Addison. I was able to show him what would go on with his grade. He can see the impact on grades that each one of these assignments is having. And this is very helpful information for me as a teacher when I'm sitting down with a student or with the parents. A couple of other items. I want to show you the default, the grading options for the teachers. The administrators have the ability to set the grade scale and the special marks and the categories ahead of time for the teachers, and then the teachers will be able to see that when they open their grade book for the first time. Which type of grade scale to use, you can choose which special marks to use and categories, etc. I know that one of the questions that had come up was what happens when you have two grade scales for a specific class. Like, for instance, you have a math class where you have a math mastery score as well as a participation score. Now, there's really two ways to go about doing that. When you're looking at, I'm going to go over to what the report card would look like. And this is not the printed report card, but I, as a teacher, would be filling this information out. So there's two ways to give this score for math that you're asking for. If there's a percentage score for mastery, and then there's, for instance, a rubric score for participation. In fact, I believe it had been NSO was the scale. So there are two different ways to do it. If you're using standards-based grading, let's say we're using standards-based grading and this is a math class. So the final grade in the class is just their math score, math mastery score, and that would be a percentage. Then each one of these standards would show up on the report card, and you could have a standard that's called participation. And under participation, if you don't want it to show up as a percentage, you can go ahead and override the score at the very end of the term and make that an N, an S, or an O. That's one way to do what you're asking. The other way would be to create a whole tab in my gradebook, one called math and one called math participation, and then give the students a grade in that math participation tab and have the grade scale for that tab be an N, an S, and an O. That way it would show up on the report card as a separate grade as well. So there are two different options, both of them easily available. It just depends on how you set up the class in the beginning. All right, going over to attendance. If you're going to use Jupyter to take attendance, it's very, very simple to use. You can do it in the form of a roll sheet, or you can do it in the form of a seating chart. But when you're taking attendance, it is very simple to go ahead and use just one click. So let's say that Tina Rybar is absent. So I click one time, excuse me, wrong day. I click one time on her, and that makes her absent. And that makes everyone else present because it assumes I'm taking attendance for the day, which I am. So if Tina Rybar is absent and that's it, I have nothing else to do, just one click. If Tina Rybar comes in tardy, then I can go ahead and click on her again and make that into a T. If Amy Primer comes in late, I can go ahead and change her over to a T. So notice all I'm having to do is click one time on the student to make an absent, click a second time to make them tardy. All of these attendance codes are determined by the school, and you can decide what would work best for your school.